Hello and welcome. This is our first installment of Bless for Less. This little idea was born just tonight, so this is kind of an off the cuff, but basically what we're looking to do here is to share with you how to bless your family, how to bless others for less, because really what we're here on this earth to do is just to serve one another, to give everything we have. So what I'm going to present in this series is ways that you can truly bless your family, bless other people you meet without having all the resources you wish you had. Not the if-onlys, you know. If only I won the lottery, I would give it all away to charity. And if only I had this much, or I had this job, or I had all these resources, I would do so much. We're fully funded to do everything that we need to do. It's just a matter of tapping into those resources. So tonight, what we're going to learn is how to bake bread, how to make bread very inexpensively for your family, and then how to turn that into giving to others, because when you give, you get in return. If you walk around like this, holding your fists in and holding your arms into yourself, you're not ready to receive. You're not ready to receive a blessing. You're not ready to receive anything in any way, shape, or form. If someone said to you, hey, I've got a check here for $10 million, you want it? What do? Instantly, the hand goes out. Yeah, sure, give it to me. I'd like to have that. But when you walk around like this, you can't get anything. If your child said to you, Mommy, I want to give you a big, big hug, are you going to say, yeah, sure, come on over? No, you're going to put out those arms. So what we're trying to embrace, what we're really trying to learn here is how to walk around essentially like this all the time, ready to receive the blessings, ready to give, because you're not giving if you're walking around like this. So what we're going to give tonight is the bread of life. Let's call it that, just to give it a term. And this is a recipe that I was fortunate enough to find in Artisan Bread for 5 Minutes a Day. Wonderful book, and I just really feel like it has so many more applicable principles other than just right here in the kitchen. You can just take this and use it all over the place. So what I'm going to start with is just showing you the basic recipe. The ingredients are very simple, very inexpensive. Right now at the grocery store, this bag of flour is on sale for $1.19, so this is when you're going to stock up. Sales are every 6 weeks, so basically you want to buy at least enough of this to last you for 6 weeks. For me, it's about a bag a week, so I bought about 6 of these for $1.19, and this, just some kosher salt, also very inexpensive. You can get it pretty much anywhere. When you have a coupon, stock up. You could probably get it for 50 cents, maybe even less if you're a little more savvy. I just like to keep my flour in here just so I can scoop it out a bit more easily, and I just kind of recycled an old peanut jar just to have something to use. So these are your 3 main ingredients. Your 4th ingredient, which is over here, is going to be your yeast. And I've found this inexpensive at a super center, which I don't usually frequent, but they do have this for $4. And with a coupon that you can buy on eBay for 50 cents, you can get about 10 coupons for $1 off. So this will cost you about $3 if you use your coupons and buy it at a super center. So what you're talking about is all together being able to make 4 loaves of bread. When you divide it out, it'll cost you between 40 and 60 cents. 40 cents if you're really coupon savvy, as much as $1 if you're really just not really in the mix. So that's pretty inexpensive when you're thinking about it in the grand scheme of things. Here's your main ingredients. First thing you're going to do is you're going to put in 3 cups of lukewarm water into your mix. So very simple. You can use any kind of measuring cup. This is just a 2-quart measuring cup that 2-cup measuring cup that I'm using here. I put in my 3 cups of lukewarm water. Why is it lukewarm? So that it activates the yeast. That's what's going to make the yeast rise and do what you need it to do. So first ingredient is your 3 cups of lukewarm water. Second ingredient is going to be 1.5 tablespoons of this yeast. There's 1. You can eyeball it. It's not a science. I mean, I just kind of go by what it looks like. That looks like about half a tablespoon. Good enough. Throw it in. Call it a day. Don't go crazy about it. Don't get wrapped around the axle. You don't really need to do anything fancy. It's just bread we're making here. Next ingredient is going to be your salt. Also 1.5 tablespoons. So far we've got the 3 cups of water, the 1.5 tablespoons of the yeast, and the 1.5 tablespoons of the salt. And again, I'm not doing rocket science here. I'm not measuring it out to a science. I just measure 1 and a little bit of a half. Looks about right. Toss it in. Good enough. I just like to swirl it around just a little bit because once the flour gets in there, it can get a little bit dicey. So I just kind of give it a little bit of a swirl. Nothing, you know, nothing fancy going on in there. It's just kind of a little bit of a mix, and that's it. I don't have a fancy tool. There's some kind of special whisk you can get. I think it's an Amish whisk. I don't have it. I just have a spoon. So that's what I use. Our final step and most important ingredient is going to be the flour. And this will need 6.5 cups of. So again, I just eyeball it. I don't do the method where you sift it in and you kind of go it across. You could, but I just don't do that. I just don't like to take all that time. I don't think it makes a difference in the taste. Our second cup, third cup, fourth cup, fifth, and number 6 and a half. And I'm sure chefs all around the country are cringing at my lack of accurate skill here, but you know what? It all comes out the same in the end, so it really doesn't matter. It's kind of hard to mess up bread, especially this recipe. And then next, you just kind of mix it all together. And there's no kneading involved in any of this. There's nothing more to it other than just kind of mixing it around. If you do have a KitchenAid mixer, you can certainly use it with your dough hook on this, but you don't have to. I find it's just one more thing to have to deal with. I just kind of mix it on my own, and it's fairly easy. Because typically when you're using the dough hook, you'll have to take it off and incorporate the extra flour, so I'd just as soon use this spoon and call it a day. I'm not doing a whole lot of heavy lifting mixing here. There's nothing really much involved. You really just want to mix it around so that it looks kind of feathery. What that means is it kind of just looks very light, kind of broken together. It's not going to look very pretty when you do it, but you want to make sure that all the flour is incorporated into it and there's no you know, water just sitting on the bottom. And that is about it. So when all is said and done, it's going to kind of look like that. Again, you can see it's kind of feathery, and there's nothing really, you know, there's nothing much to it. From there, all you're going to do is put the top on, or you can put some saran wrap, just put it right over the top of it and let it rise for 2 hours. Poke a tiny little hole in the top just so that you can let it breathe a little bit, because again, this is going to be rising and fermenting. You want to allow that to escape. So all I do is I cover it and I just set it over on the counter and just let it rise for 2 hours. What this is after it's risen for those 2 hours. It started out halfway, it rose up, I put it in the refrigerator, it cooled off. That's that. So this is the next step of it. This is what it looks like after it's risen for those 2 hours. After that, just open it up. Now this can just sit in your fridge. This can sit for up to 2 weeks. The longer it sits, the more of a sourdough taste it gets, so it can be a little bit even more tasty if you let it sit for a while. This doesn't tend to last very long in my house. There's always a sandwich to be made, or pizza, which will probably be our next episode, is how to make pizza out of this too, just as easy. In order to work with it, I find it's easier to flour my hands a bit, so I'll bring the flour back over. It just can get a little bit sticky. After it's sat in the fridge for a while, it's a lot easier to work with. So just kind of sprinkle a little flour on there, a little flour on your hands. The book recipe recommends a 1 pound piece. I don't weigh it, I just kind of eyeball it. And you know, you basically just kind of look, that looks about like, you know, maybe a pound feels like a pound, a little more, a little less. What you want to do is roll it around. You're kind of trying to stretch the top around so that you get into a ball shape. And this is probably about the size of a navel orange, I would say. That's what I would compare it to. There's not much to it. Again, I'm sure authors would say you're butchering our recipe, but this is just my hodgepodge of how to put together without all that much time. Because realistically, no one has time to be sitting around doing all this stuff to perfection. That's it. End up with a little ball like this. I like to set it on a little wax paper or on a floured surface, and I just let it rest. If you've just made the dough, you let it rest for 40 minutes, but if it's coming out of the fridge like this, you want to probably give it about 90 minutes. Basically what you want to do is you want to bring it up to room temperature. You want to make sure it's warm enough, because that's going to affect the gluten structure. So we're just bringing it up to room temperature. Right now it's ice cold, so put about an hour and a half. And then from there, what's going to happen is you're going to notice it's going to spread, it's going to relax a little bit, and you're going to end up